Okay, so sorry about that. If you saw the live, I tried to share my screen on Facebook and it just doesn't work because Facebook has weird browser permissions. So anyway, here is how you use the garden plan. I am so excited for you to get your hands on it. Right now, it is still on my website as the Flower Assistant. So if you go to grow.flowers or growflowers.org, in the top menu header, you should see the Flower Assistant. So if you go there, and actually if you buy the Flower Assistant this weekend, you get access to all of the existing bonuses, the Flower Assistant, and Justin's in the background telling me to talk slower. So you get access to the Flower Assistant, you get access to bonuses, and you get access to this new version called the Garden Plan. So definitely go check it out if you don't already have it. And I'm going to walk through how this all works and how you can use it to plan your garden season in just 5 minutes. And of course, that comes with a caveat that if you are planning a lot more details, it's going to take a little bit longer. But it's super fast. It's really easy. And I had a friend say yesterday that she's actually overseas and she's like, this is what people need. Like, this is what they've been looking for. So cannot wait for you to try it. Like I said in a previous video, people are using it currently in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and Europe, and here in the US and Canada so far. So if you live somewhere else and try it, please let me know because I want to hear how it works for you. Okay, so first step is to enter your frost dates. Mine, at least in Iowa, are May 3rd and then October 5th. And it's going to ask you if you prefer soil blocking or starting in trays. So the difference being that with soil blocking, it takes about 6 weeks, starting on average. Starting in trays, it's going to take about 8 weeks on average. And of course, like I said, those are just averages. If you are a person that, or so for instance, even like if I'm planting zinnias in soil blockings, it's going to take about 4 weeks. If I'm planting zinnias in trays, it might take me about 6 weeks. So it's also very variety dependent, and that data is reflected in the Garden Assistant or the Garden Plan to an extent, but just use these default dates depending on what you mainly do, because you can go back and actually change it in little increments if you want. So I'm going to choose soil blocking. And here you want to search for the varieties that you're going to grow. So this is the main difference between the Garden Plan and the Flower Assistant. In the Flower Assistant, you just check off boxes for what you're growing. Here you actually search for these varieties because there's 145 of them. So it's a lot to look for. So I'm going to do beans. I'm going to do green beans. Then I want to search for amaranth. The one problem with this is you actually have to spell things correctly. So that might be a little tricky. It's a little tricky for me. I rely on spell checker so much. Okay, bachelor buttons. And just so you know, this is one thing about the program is you have to actually select it. You can't just hit enter, because as soon as you hit enter, the program wants to download your planner. So be sure to actually search for things. And what else should we do? Watermelon. It's my favorite. And how about cilantro? Okay. So, and also I'm going to change that because it had cilantro and coriander as the same thing, which isn't, they have different data that goes into it. Oh, this is a good example. Let's do this. Sunflowers. So if you are going to transplant and direct seed a certain variety, you are going to need to enter it twice. And so this is mostly for the people that do a lot of gardening or are growing on a larger scale, like I would for flower farming, or if you're growing for market. I will direct seed and transplant sunflowers. So if that's the case, you just want to add it again and pick. So down here, you can see how the sunflowers are on there twice. So this one I want to direct seed, and this one I want to transplant. So that's going to see how it actually changes the data here. And so what that means is when I'm growing sunflowers, if I'm growing them in soil blocking or in trays, either way, I want to grow them for only 2 weeks. But let's say you know your variety takes a little bit longer and you want to change it to 3 weeks. Just change it to 3 weeks. And then down here, you pick out the number of plantings you want to do. So I'm going to say I only want to do 4 plantings, and I want to do them 3 weeks apart. And then the days until blooming. So you may have to, the days until blooming is not a very scientific number. You may have to change that based on your own experience, but it's just a good number to like guess off of or go by. Not all varieties have a days until blooming or harvest. And I think it says blooming in here still because it was originally the flower assistant, but it could be days until harvest. And so that's more of a very generalized number that it's not a guarantee that that's when it will happen. Okay, so we have these varieties. So now if we click open settings, you don't have to do this, but it is helpful, again, if you're growing on a large scale and really want to get into the little minute details of it. So frost still possible gap days. So this is the time period that you would plant your cold hardy varieties before your last spring frost date. So this could be 4 weeks, this could be 6 weeks. Here in New Mexico, it's more like 9 weeks. And in that season, you want to make sure that you are growing things that are cold hardy. And all that data is already set up in the flower assist or in the garden plan. You want to generally have frost protection on hand, and you want to know that it's not going to be a really, really hard freeze. In my workshop, the planting workshop, I actually go into a lot of this in more detail, but that's the idea behind it. The seed starting gap days, that is the days between starting and transplanting. So again, I think it would change if I had picked trays. This is set up for soil blocking because that's how many I use. Down here, you can see bulbs and perennial settings. Like for instance, plant alliums. Technically, you could plant them 4 weeks before your first fall frost, but I am always late. So I would probably even change it to like 2 weeks or after my last fall frost. Like these are all just general recommendations to help you have the mindset of when you're supposed to be doing things. But the weather's always changing. Things are always growing. It's always in the water. Like there's freezing. There's so many different variables that go into it. This is all like the best practices guide, but not necessarily how everything has to play out. Dahlia settings. So this is specifically for people that take the dahlias pretty seriously, and especially for people like growing them to sell and things like that. This is all the data about that, like how long to take cuttings before, all of that stuff. And field settings, again, you can go through and change this. And this is what makes the garden plan so awesome and why it can work all over the world is because it's all based off of your frost dates. And I don't know exactly how this works if you don't have any freezes at all, but in the Northern Hemisphere, there's always freeze dates. And so it really helps to just base everything off of those dates. So that's all of that data. And then here, when you go to the print settings, you can choose which things you include in the print settings, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And it does come in color, but if you want to, you can do the black and white option. Here's bulbs, perennials, and tubers, and all of that info is up here again that you can change how that works. So I want to plant daffodils and fall perennials and lilies in the spring. If you just garden, the difference between lilies in the spring and lilies in the fall is that fall planted lilies all bloom at the same time. So cut flower growers often like to stagger lily plantings. And this just calculates the first date that you could plant lilies in the spring. It doesn't necessarily plant the succession plantings of lilies. You can add that as your own custom planting, but that's the difference between spring and fall. So for those of you that are wondering. Here's field care, plant a spring cover crop, winter cover crop, fish emulsion, liquid kelp, all that stuff. Weekly chores, you can choose to weed on Mondays and Friday. Use control click or command click to select multiple of them. And then here is what makes this really cool, is you can actually add your own tasks and events. So like if I want to just add Justin's birthday, it's a one-time thing. It is going to be on a date, and we'll say it's So that is how you add tasks, your own things, your own events, birthdays, whatever you want. It's literally just like writing things out in a planner, except you are generating a PDF printable planner. Or what's super awesome is you can go down here. You need to agree to the terms and conditions, create the PDF planner. Oh no, this happened to me once before. Let's see if it works this time. All right, there's my printable planner. And see here, it is set up for double-sided printing. So you see how January and this page. And so I might look into seeing, I don't know how to do it so that it's either single page or double-sided. Right now it's just double-sided. If we go back here, you can actually submit a print order. This is on your checkout page. And if you want to buy this, you can. Just let me know if you don't have it yet. And then this little section right here is what's really great. Subscribe to my calendar. This means that I can now add all of these events to my actual calendar. So it's pretty awesome. And this is not the browser I was in. So yeah, I hope that it really helps you this year. I'm so excited for you to use it, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Again, if you have any questions, join the Garden Plan group. I'm going to be in there answering things and hopefully getting you all situated. I love to hear your feedback, and please, if you know anyone that could use this, just share it. I'm so excited about it, and I hope you have a great day.